Hi guys, I hope you're doing well. I'm going to show you some optical illusion designs that you can create at home. I was hoping to have found my ruler, but I haven't been able to find it. So I'm going to have to show you ones that don't involve super straight lines and using a ruler right now. So hopefully I find that tomorrow and I can add those. Um, these are some of the designs I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you how to make this one and uh, this one, and these spider web designs, which can be varied in a lot of different ways. So when we're talking about optical illusions, we want to keep in mind, sorry, I'm moving my chair. That was not a toot. Line, repetition, pattern, value. We're creating an illusion. It sort of looks like things are going to be distorted by using some shading over here. So the way that we start this is we can start with a point. It can be in the center, it can be off center too. What we want to do is we want to radiate lines out from a point on the page so that they're going from that point out towards the very edge of the page. They can curve, they can do a wave, they can just be straight. I like the curved lines best. I think that that looks really cool with this design. It's up to you how you decide to do that. Then in between each one of those lines that you have radiating out, those radial lines, we're going to start to add an arc in those sections. So I'm going to use a pen to follow the lines that I had left before. Meaning like right here I see that I finished this arc right here, and right here I finished this arc right here. So I'm going to start from there and I'm going to arc to the next line. So I'm just hopping over from line to line, arcing each line so that it meets the next side. Each one of them should be evenly spaced, but if they don't turn out that way, that's not a big deal. But you want to make sure that each one arcs, kind of follows the arc before it. So follow the see, this one's a little bit more curved than that one. So you kind of just want to follow what's happening down below and then radiate out further towards the edge of your paper as you go. Whoops, I went from there, so I should start from the bottom so that it's just a little bit easier. Just so it's nice that I showed you a mistake. Haha. Alright, so once I have a design like that, it's filling up my paper, I can either do this one or I can do the one where it's going back and forth. So see how this arcs, these arc down in this whole section, and in this section they arc up, and it just flip-flops between each one. So here I have this one arcing out towards the edge of the paper. So this time I'm going to have it arc in towards the center. So each time I want to follow the arc that's down below. I want to start from that arc. Alright, so I can do either one of these versions, and then what I want to do is add some shading with either a pencil or some colored pencils. You can even kind of stipple or add lines with your pens if you'd like to. So the way that I like to think about shading it is that I would just do the edges of each section. So each edge like this, I'm going to shade it, and then I'm going to kind of bring it in right where those lines are as well, so that it kind of makes each section look like it's kind of bulging out at us. I want to leave the center part a little bit clear of any marks, because that's going to be the area that's like the illusion of a shine or a reflection. It's where like the light would be hitting if this was an object that was 3D. So it's giving that illusion of it being something that could kind of jump off the paper at you. Alright, so this one used shading. So I have a darker value on the edge, and then I shaded it so that it's kind of blending into the center, right? It's using repetition and line, and it's a radial lines that are coming out from it. So radial lines, and we used arcs here. We also used arcs here, but we flipped the arcs from one direction to the other. All right, so there's that video. This one is, that drawing, sorry. This one is the circles that we have, because I don't have a ruler right now, so I'm finding things that I have at home, and I have lots of bottle caps. So I used a variety of caps, and I want to start with the smallest one first and trace around it. I want to hold it in place with one finger and then go right up against the edge of what I'm tracing to make sure that I get that as a circle and not some wonky shape. All right, so then I want to pick another circle. It could be directly so that it's evenly spaced from each one, but that's not a big deal. In fact, I kind of like it when they're offset a little bit. So there's my second circle, which is a honey cap, and it is off center, which I kind of like. I think that looks good. Gonna go around. I'm not sure if you can see what I'm doing right now, but all right. And then one big one, I think. All right. And I'm gonna make this one way offset because I kind of like the way that it looks when it's offset. All right, so once I have my circles in a radiating format like this, what I want to do is I want to start out with a center point, and then I want to make lines that are going to come out from that point. I'm going to tell you a trick first. So it's important that you leave a even amount of spaces here. So we're going to talk about that in a moment. But right now, I'm just making some lines come out towards the edge. I don't really have to rotate my paper for this, but you might want to. The next part I am going to rotate my paper for because I think it's important to follow the same directional lines. So I feel like this line is going out in this direction, and I want it to kind of go in the opposite direction. So I'm going to go that way with that line, right? So this one I want it to follow that same kind of angle as best as I can. I'm going to rotate my paper a little bit and bring that one out this way. All right, so each time I do that, I want to make sure that I'm changing the direction when I come to the next section of circle, my next circle. Those angles are all going to change the opposite direction. So then these lines would go in the opposite angle. Now I might want to add more in between here because this one's looking really spread out. So this example right here, I wanted to show you, it's important that you have every other space so that you can color it in, so you can have like a solid like black and white or purple and white. So like I want to make sure that I have purple, white, purple, white, purple, white, purple, white, purple, white, purple, white, and then it's purple. So that's okay. If it had been white and that, or purple and then purple, then what I would had to do would be to add another line right there and then add more in there. But I don't have to do that. So that is just a tip. If you, I would do that before you start coloring it in. It's important to make sure that it's gonna alternate. Otherwise, it'll be a little bit harder to add in one at the end. So here I go, adding more of these lines that are following the angles from up above in each section. I want to make sure that I reach the edge of that circle every time and don't get lazy with that. Otherwise, it's not going to look as cool at the very end. Each one of these sections, so this one I know it's this whole section will be purple, so I could even mark that right now so that I don't get confused later. But each one of these sections should follow those angles that's before it. So as I go, I can color these in, or I can just go ahead and do the whole thing and then fill it in. I'm going to go ahead and color it just so that you can see my coloring technique in case you're interested. I like to go in one direction with my coloring, filling in a large space. And I like to follow the angle of what I'm coloring if possible. Alright, so if I continue this drawing and have it all radiate out like this and then color in each one, I'll be left with this image. Alright, so now we're going to move on to this shape right here, which is an organic shape. It looks like it's blooming to me. That's why I wrote that there. Hopefully I can find that same marker. Okay, so with this one, I want to start out with an organic shape. It's just kind of like a blob in the middle. And I'm going to start my center one with some thin lines. So I'm just making an organic shape, and then I want to try to make it meet back up on itself like that. Then I want to try to echo that shape, follow those same lines that I just did again, and I will keep following each of those waves that I have drawn in the last section. And I want to try to follow that spacing. When I get to the edge of the paper, it would go like that so that I could follow it back up. Okay. And now I can start to think about how I want to pull out some of these thicker areas. So what I like to think about doing is adding just a little bit of a section onto these so that I can kind of fill them in and make them look a little bit fatter. And they can go a little bit thinner as they go in. So I'm just thickening up the line, and some areas will be thicker than others. And that kind of gives it that feeling of it kind of like pulsating or coming at you, I think. Maybe you don't get that feeling when you're looking at it, but I think it's kind of an interesting shape. So I thought this one would be fun to do. So each one of these, I would just continue to add more to it in each part. I hope you guys are doing well. I miss being in the classroom with you, but it's kind of fun to make videos, and this is my first time doing it, so let me know how it's going. This might be a little too long. In fact, I better stop it. Alright, so as you can see, each one of these sections, I'm going to just thicken up the lines. I can vary the thickness of the line by filling it in a little bit more, a little bit less in some areas. Like right here, it's very thin, and this area, it's very thick. So as I follow this line, it's thicker, thinner, thicker, thinner. That kind of gives it a little bit more of that feeling of movement, I think. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed those optical illusions. This one is one that you may have seen in the Bay Area somewhere. If you have, it was probably at the Exploratorium. I think they have it in their bathroom on the tiles, and it looks like you're like spinning back and forth from each row, like you're going down and down and down, but really it's just a straight line, and they shift each one of these squares so that they look stacked like that. So it's pretty cool illusion. If you can make that at home, I would love to see you do it. If you can make any of the other ones, I would love for you to post them and share them. All right, thank you.